Okay, so we're going to look at economic development. Economic development is not economic growth. Okay, if we find a lot of oil in, I don't know, in Italy, suddenly, we can sell that oil abroad and bring in lots of resources, and we've grown the economy. But that doesn't mean there's been economic development, because economic development is a transformation of the economy, the structure of the economy. We've got a structure in the economy, in the Italian economy. There's a lot of tourism, a lot of engineering, maybe agriculture. It has a certain structure, but a transformation will mean a structural change, and this could be economic development. We are on the path. All countries are on the path of development. Um, you have very poor countries with an agricultural economy moving towards an industrial economy. You've got the famous BRICS, like Brazil, Russia, uh, India, China, and South America, South Africa. They've emerged from agricultural economies into industrial economies. Um, and this was an economic development. Suddenly they could produce in different way, in a far more sophisticated way. Not so sophisticated, just planting seeds and picking the fruit or the vegetables or feeding cows. It's very sophisticated to build a car, for example. So that's an example. In the picture, you can see an agricultural economy next to an industrial economy, and we can imagine, the intellectual ability necessary in the industrial economy is significant. Less so in the agricultural economy. Now, we have developed from agriculture industrial, but also we've done other developments, into a service economy. When we're thinking about service economy, we're thinking about education and health and things like research and development, and Amazon, is a service, um, or branding, creating an identity like Ferrari. Suddenly you can add so much more value onto the actual industrial process when you build a brand like Coca-Cola or Ferrari. So this service economy takes a lot more intellectual ability. And so it is a development in the direction of developing. But then we've developed into a digital economy. We've moved from analog to digital, where phones are all digital. We exchange things on the internet like music, and read newspapers and dictionaries, and use YouTube and watch films. All this has built this side of the economy, the digital side. Now, the biggest companies in the world are digital. Many years ago in the 1990s, early 1990s, all the big companies, all the biggest companies on the planet were fossil fuels, oil. They were, digging for oil, like Esso and Shell. But now the biggest companies are Amazon, Facebook, Google. Companies like these have emerged and built another dimension to our economy, changed the structure, if you like. And we are going through another development, the green economy. We are trying to green the economy because in the Industrial Revolution, we started using fossil fuels and polluted the planet. So, the ozone layer has disappeared, or not disappeared, but it's got holes in it and letting in too much sunshine and heat, and it's trapping the heat, and suddenly we've got this problem. So we've got to change and get a green economy. Like I said before, energy was always the most important in the economy many years ago, and it still is so important. That is the main thing that will save the planet, greening the economy. There's lots of other things like recycling or saving, building houses which save energy. But the main thing is to get off fossil fuels. Once we're off fossil fuels and we're using air or wind, sunshine and tide, then the climate change will stop and we'll be all safe again. But it's not easy to do. Energy is everywhere, but it's a question of harnessing that energy, and that's a question of technology, isn't it? Becoming cheap enough and being able to recycle the batteries, the car batteries and things like that. So greening the economy is the process we're going through in economic development now. That's the biggest development. And then hopefully we also will be going towards a sharing economy. That's again something that started and it seems to be going together with this greening of the economy and the digitalization of the economy seems to emerge, this idea of a sharing economy. Suddenly we're not having to own things like before. We've got this new paradigm in which sharing has become much more prevalent. This mirrors the process of what's happened in the European Union with sharing sovereignty. We're sharing sovereignty, and that seems to be being replicated around the planet with the Asian Union, the African Union, the Islamic Union, and the North American Union, which isn't going very well. Bit more of a division than a union. So we are doing this process of sharing. Seems to be, if we look at the information internet, this sharing seems to have worked, and maybe we will be going down this road with energy and with transport too. This is the big movement in economic development. And who knows what in the future, maybe an ethical economy. Maybe justice will become important and social justice will become important, and consumers start flexing their muscles and start, buying or behaving, having consuming behaviours according to companies that respect the planet and respect workers and respect populations and this type of thing. So who knows where we develop in the future, but hopefully it will be in the right direction. Right, so when we have a deep transformation of the economy and we really develop in a fundamental way, we can say it's been an industrial revolution. And industrial revolutions normally happen with the convergence of three big aspects of the economy. You've got communication, energy, and transportation. Communication, obviously, we need to coordinate as an organisations. We've got to be able to organise in a big group and very quickly. We can see in the second industrial revolution, in the picture, they've got the telephone lines. When suddenly you've got the radio and the telephone, and suddenly you could, big organisations could communicate over continents immediately in real time. And that meant there was a certain potential for doing big things. And then energy, obviously, for production, you need a lot of energy. So normally if there's a change in this source of energy, this can lead to an industrial revolution. And then transportation, because obviously you're going to have to transport goods and people in the production process, both as supply and the final product. So we've got these three very important aspects of production and distribution in an economy, and if they change and converge together, you will get a big revolution. You'll get a deep fundamental change. And in the picture we can see the second industrial revolution, when over time there was change in the communication from printing to phones and telegraph and radio. So suddenly you could communicate in real time and organise and coordinate in real time. And energy, you've got electricity and oil. So you can move people and look on things. You don't have to be moved on trains. They can be moved on lorries, on roads, and then the energy to move them, or the transportation, is the change to motor cars and lorries, which is again more efficient. So those convergences created this second industrial revolution. Now, communication. In the first industrial revolution, we could call it 1760, but it was a long time before it was completed. The process of the revolution was completed. But in 1760, we went from handwritten delivered letters delivered on horseback for small groups of people to printed and widely distributed, because we were able to run the machines with coal, and we were able to print very much easier, in an easier way. And so, that meant we could distribute information, instructions very quickly and easily. In the second industrial revolution from 1870, the communication changed because of the telephone. So suddenly in real time, which is, in the actual time, you don't have to wait for the communication, you're acting according to the real time it's happening. We can diffuse information through the telephone and the radio. And this enabled companies to spread much more across countries and across continents even. So that industrial revolution saw the development of the telephone and radio. Now, the third industrial revolution, the one we're going through now, we're seeing internet and digital technologies. That's what's made communication global and also very cheap. Just think of your phones. On WhatsApp, you could do a video call wherever on the planet for nothing. And it's asymmetrical. It means you can communicate one person with millions. You know, go on YouTube or even on a WhatsApp group. You could communicate to thousands of people. So the communication we can see has developed into the digital communication, which means, digital means we can become self-organizing networks. We're not even organized by somebody. We can be organized as a network autonomously. Just one person communicating with others, and the others all communicating together. We can work out strategies and actions that are necessary. And this communication has really transformed activity, made all the structures much flatter. You know, companies are flatter. Everything's a horizontal power. The next is energy. So you've got the first industrial revolution. Here we went from human and animal labour and windmills and firewood to coal. And coal meant suddenly we could have a lot of energy in a very small object. The coal is like millions and millions of years of compressed energy stored in that tiny little coal. And that's why it was so useful, because it had all that power inside it. And that, you know, made a huge difference. Second industrial revolution, you got oil and electricity. The oil was good for cars, and the electricity was good for machines and heating, and much more effective and efficient. So the third industrial revolution, now that's where we're going now, is the renewable energies like solar, wind and tide. Again, it's everywhere. This energy is everywhere, and it's clean and cost efficient, and it can be all generated locally. You don't have to have big power stations distributing it to millions of people. That means that the power is distributed too, if it's also able to be generated in a distributed way. People have more control locally. Transportation. So we went in the first industrial revolution from horses and ships to trains and steamships. Again, here we can deliver things much easier and quicker, can't we? The distribution network of people and goods is incredibly more efficient. And in the second industrial revolution, we started using cars and lorries, which are even more efficient, and airplanes. The third industrial revolution, so where are we going? We're going to electric and autonomous cars, and maybe transport sharing. Now, that changes everything. Autonomous cars and lorries. This changes everything because it does mean that it can work without any human interference, and so become automatic. It doesn't need any interference from human beings. All they've got to do is communicate they need a car or a lorry to take someone or something somewhere. And you've got the digital communication with the phone, and you can call up a car and or a lorry, and then program that to go wherever you want. So it becomes incredibly efficient and effective, not taking anyone's time up. And then the transport sharing. This can also converge this sharing, because it means, if everything's autonomous, all the transport's autonomous, we don't need many cars on the road because we don't need a car per person. Most 95% of the cars are sitting there in parking spaces at the moment. But if you didn't own the car, they just automatically came to you at you calling. It would save so much time and so much money and so many resources. It would mean that you don't spend time looking for a parking space. You don't even need a garage. It would mean you don't have to spend on buying a car for 20,000. You just pay into a network and use as much as you like. So it would become like the information internet, where information is free. You plug in and then use. So you pay to get into the network and then use as much as you like. And that's where we're going, hopefully, because then we won't need 95% of the cars that are on the road right now. We won't need them. Transport won't be a problem. Right, so the third industrial revolution. Let's look at the characteristics, because this is where we're going. First of all, there's no alternative, because otherwise we're going to have huge problems going forwards with climate change. We're not going to be able to be economically functional. When you've got the weather basically going crazy, eventually, not only will it eliminate life on Earth, but as we go forward, it's impossible to be economic, when you have type of damage that could happen. So we have to do it just to sustain ourselves. There's no alternative. So we're going to do it whatever. Now this industrial revolution, this revolution that's really changing the way we produce and diffuse products and services, is highly technological. It's all about technology and innovation. It's not going to be, when we look at the second industrial revolution, we see, getting oil from the earth. There was just that. There was that solution to get the oil. You drilled down, and it took a lot of equipment. But this, there's gonna need a lot of different solutions. Some places are very sunny, some are very windy. We're going to have to develop battery technologies, technologies to save different materials, to save heat, to keep heat in, so we don't have to waste heating. Different ways of doing solar panels, maybe windows or even solar paint. These things, this industrial revolution is really about innovation and diversity of solutions. There's not going to be one means centralized. It's going to be very local solutions. Then it's going to be green and digital, we know that, but also shared and diffused. So shared, this revolution can also mean lead to the possibilities of sharing with the green and with the digital. Really, you need to share when it comes to sun. The sun's not always shining here, so maybe when it's not shining here, it can be sent from a place it's shining, or we can swap our energies send it where it's needed. And resources need to be shared, like I said before, with the car internet, with the logistic internet. Maybe we will have a shared network of autonomous cars, so we don't need to produce so much. This idea of shared is actually part of the solution towards sustainability. And then diffused. This really will diffuse control when you get this revolution where people collect their own energy from the sun with using, I don't know, paint or solar panels. It means they are the ones producing the energy, not some huge, great organization being in total control. So we are seeing a little bit of that with the control of, the internet networks like Facebook and I don't know, Amazon. But there also is this side where we do have this local production, even with the internet of information. People produce things, music, I don't know, blogs, and distribute local from even programs and apps are diffused freely on the internet. So there will be this sense of local solutions and shared distribution and diffused power. It's very horizontal, not hierarchical. So, but it does need a lot of infrastructure. We're talking about bi-directional transmission lines. So at the moment, the transmission lines for electricity go in one direction from the producer of energy, the power station, to the user. Now this has to change, and that's going to cost trillions. That's going to cost a lot of money. So we can really share the energy. If I'm producing in Germany now, when they produce energy on using solar panels on your roof, sometimes they're actually energy becomes free for everyone in Germany. Suddenly nobody's paying for energy for a week because of this dynamic. People are getting paid to produce energy. Okay. This does produce this internet, this idea of being part of a network where you can pay to enter, and then use as much as you like. And we can see that on the information internet. We pay to join the internet, and then I can watch all the YouTube videos I want, look at newspapers and dictionaries and websites and films and music, whatever. So there is this characteristic where it becomes a network. The production and the consumption becomes just a network of people sharing. Sometimes they're called pro-consumers. They're producers and consumers. I consume energy, but I also produce it. There will be 3 internets. We've got the information internet, so that's the communication side. Then we've got the energy internet, which will be, the energy side, where we are all connected. And then the transportation internet. Lastly, there's the Internet of Things, which will be a platform for controlling all the internets. So they can all intertwine to help each other. If I want a car, I use the Internet of Information to call the transportation internet, and the transportation internet maybe sometimes requests the energy internet intervenes to add for a car to fill up with electricity, and so it should be controlled with an Internet of Things, which is the platform for controlling all the internets. Now, this is obviously a projection, and it's not happened, and maybe we won't ever get there. But that's the direction we are going with this industrial revolution, the 3rd industrial revolution. Right, first of all, we're going to look at the communication aspects of this 3rd industrial revolution. And here we can see the information internet, which we all know has certain characteristics. It has an infrastructure. So, originally they had to lay fiber optic cables under the sea and plug in all the countries to each other. Put satellites into space and basically just connect each other through this infrastructure, and using computers, home computers, and eventually phones, just simple smartphones. But you needed the infrastructure, and that took 25 years to put into place and to develop, for everyone to have all this, computer infrastructure in their homes, and for the cables to be laid, and for it all to work properly. We're talking about a long time of development and costing a lot of money. But once it's there, it's there. You just plug and play. Basically now, we just pay to be part of the internet. You pay the phone company to be part of the internet, and then everything's free, whether it's newspapers or dictionaries, YouTube, social networks like Facebook and Instagram, or Wikipedia, or different apps, lots and lots and lots of things. You've got music, we've got films, all we can get access to through this internet without having to pay a lot of money. Even word processors, etc. So that's the nature of the internet. We are sharing. We are able to share all this information, because it's zero marginal cost. Marginal cost we could consider as variable cost. So we paid the initial payment of connecting, and then any if I send music into the internet, it doesn't cost me. I don't lose that music. That music is gained by someone else. So it's anything extra produced doesn't cost any money. It's the initial cost, the fixed cost that costs money. So this creates, that dynamic where things become free. And we can develop horizontal power. We're not talking about vertical power anymore, where someone has control over resources. But with the internet, it's very uncontrollable and it's very chaotic. But anyone can have access and contribute to it and take from it. It's not discriminating, if you like. It doesn't matter if you're poor or you're rich. You're all on the same level. I can communicate with millions, just like someone who is very rich and powerful, using the internet. Okay, so this really, over time, it can improve and become cheaper as new technologies arrive. So that's the character of this information internet. If we look at the new energy internet that's coming, it has very similar characteristics. Now we've started this transformation. This is another aspect of the third industrial revolution, and you've got this energy, new way of getting energy, and first you need the infrastructure, and that's what we're going through at the moment. We need solar panels, wind turbines, undersea turbines, but also the bi-directional transmission lines. At the moment you've got a power station which has a one direction of dispersing energy, electricity, goes from the power station to the home or wherever it's needed. And that's, with the energy internet, we need to be able to have it bi-directional, because if I'm not using energy, if the sun's shining here and I'm not using it, it should be going somewhere where the sun's not shining and they can use it. So we do really need, because with the renewable energies, the sun isn't always shining, the wind's not always blowing, but if we're all connected, we can share this resource, this energy. Energy is everywhere. The sunshine, the wind, the power of the tide, it's everywhere. But really, it's about capturing it. And again, once we've got this infrastructure, which will take 30 years, it's going to take a long time. In the European Union, in 30 years, will be 100% renewable energy, but it's going to take 30 years to put all the infrastructure there. And then once it's there, we can plug and play. We can get the solar panels and just plug into it and then have as much energy as we want. That's exactly like the information internet. It will make a huge difference. We will be sharing again. All the characteristics are exactly the same as the information internet. There's zero marginal costs once we're sharing. It becomes horizontal power. Now, the energy coming from fossil fuels means somebody controls those resources and is very powerful, and they have to be brought from the Middle East and they're worth a lot of money. But this energy will be generated by us all, and it will be we won't be controlled by someone controlling the resources. It should over time again improve and become cheaper with generations of technology. If we see, with food, once we were hunter-gatherers looking for food, then in the picture we can see we became farmers, harvesting, making food, generating the food, and it was a much better idea. Well, we've been the same with energy. We are hunter-gatherers for energy. We are looking around the world and having to transport it all over the world. Whereas what we should be doing is farming for energy, just capturing that energy, harnessing that energy. Much better idea, and that's where we're going, and that's a huge part of the industrial process. This will be part of the revolution. We've got the communication part. This is a fundamental part of the production, the energy. Thirdly, we've got the transport, so we've got the logistics internet. Again, we need the infrastructure, a network of autonomous electric cars ready to respond to a request through smartphones. But first, we need to develop this network of autonomous vehicles, all connected to our phones. This will take many years to develop, but again, it's another network where we plug and play. We pay to be part of, and then we can share the resources. When we need a lift, we just call it up on our phone. Now, this will really reduce the number of cars off the road by 95%. Most of the cars don't spend hardly any time being driven. They're just parked. We won't need even the parking spaces or the garages because 5% of the cars could be going all the time and cater for all our needs. So we'll save a lot of money and a lot of space, a lot of resources. But it will be, again, part of sharing and not owning. We won't be owning the car, we'll be sharing a service. Again, it's zero marginal costs. The initial payment must be made, and then the energy will come from the sun and the wind for the cars, and the cars will automatically, you don't need to be driven. They're autonomous, automatically go and cater for everyone who's paid into that logistics internet. We will have, again, horizontal power be uncontrollable, and it will improve and become cheaper with new generations of technology. So that will have the similar characteristics. It will be a network, and we will be sharing the resources, pay to become part of the network. So here we can say the transport, the communication aspects and the energy aspects have converged and create this industrial revolution, this third industrial revolution. What should happen with the third industrial revolution? You have a complete change in paradigm. We've got the capitalist paradigm, which, it's got good and bad aspects, but it was profit driven, whereas the sharing economy may not be profit driven so much. I would say there will be some profit, making the resources, etc. But people will be generating their own energy. That's the main thing. People will be communicating. So it will be less profit driven because there'll be less control by a few and the many needing those resources. So the few won't be controlling the resources. There will be renewable energy and not the fossil fuels. We are going back to nature, pre-industrial revolution. Lot less competition and patents, much more open source and co-creation. Open source, like on the internet of information, we share. Often things are free and they're shared, like Wikipedia. This will become a much more prevalent way of behaving in the economy. I don't think it's got nothing to do with the philosophy. This is where we're going. We tend to the modern generations tend to own less music, for example. and really value much more just experiencing and being part of a network. Bit like the European Union. The European Union really is not owning the sovereignty but sharing the sovereignty. So the French can come to Italy and we don't own the jobs. They can come and work and retire here, and we are sharing the territory. This seems to be the direction. Less about ownership and competition, and much more about sharing and open source, and then community and sustainability. So we are going a bit more towards community and sustainability, and little bit away from corporate behaviour, where you have corporate activity controlling interests. Again, we don't know how things will work out, but that does seem to be the direction of this possibility of the third industrial revolution. It has been the possibility with the information internet, and maybe the energy internet. I can't see how it can be different. It has the same characteristics, and the transport internet. So we will see. Now, the peaceful dividend of the third industrial revolution. Let's think about the fossil fuel era. That was a concentrated energy, and that also concentrated wealth in the hands of few, whether it's Russia, which had a lot of fossil fuels, or Saudi Arabia, or I don't know, some societies, Nigeria, they have a lot of oil, but it means that a part of these groups become very strong and can use that power to reinforce their dictates, their interests. So with this revolution, when we go away from fossil fuels, we will be going away from concentrated power, even though there is a case to be said that having the infrastructure of the communication revolution, the internet, owned by very few people, means even more concentrated power in even fewer hands. And that's true, and that's something which I think will be over time, put right, redressed, because governments need to really tax and regulate the internet structures like Facebook, Google, and lots of regulations needs to happen. X. All these things are very free at the moment, and that's something which needs to come under the heel of the people through democratic tools. But I do think we can say there is an opportunity for the power, energy, to become really spread, diffused amongst the world through techniques of capturing the energy and sharing it, literally just sharing it. So hopefully there will be a peace dividend. Oil has caused a lot of wars, and this new revolution, this new energy revolution, the industrial revolution, will diffuse the power and be much more democratic of nature. Okay, so finally, with the energy and information and logistic internets, we can say the system is redefined. This has been called collaborative commons, not the free market, even though many economists think the free market will remain a little bit, but we will become more and more of a different nature that seems more collaborative and kind of sharing economy and not necessarily an owning economy. So it does go away from the real fundamentals of capitalism, which is ownership of the means of production and profit and competition. This collaborative commons will happen if the Industrial Revolution happens the way they expect it to. So this is a very positive message, even though it doesn't stop people owning things if they want. It will just become less and less in our interest to pay lots of money. It's more in our interest just to be part of a network and obtain our needs through a network. Lastly, the Internet of Things. This really is the spread of sensors on everything, which can really mean that the machines talk to each other and organize themselves automatically. If my car has a problem, it can automatically communicate to the mechanic, who can automatically send out some sort of repair mechanism to access and things. The point is, things can happen on a very automated level without much human intervention. And it's going to be really a platform. The Internet of Things will be a platform where three internets are working together. They're organized by this Internet of Things. So the three internets, energy, logistic and communication, will be constantly operating to adjust to the needs of a user. Even a fridge can order new shopping when necessary, and once the order is communicated, logistics internets implements the request. So we can see all the different internets operating autonomously.